welcome back for another fun colorwork pattern. Today this will be the Desert Boho Crochet Cowl. This is a really fun colorwork one because of the Chroma yarn. It looks like you have a lot of different strands of yarn in here, but you don't. The Chroma yarn changes colors for you. So let's talk about these supplies. This is the twill and the fingering. This is a sea salt heather. I used the Horchata heather. So I love this twill fingering. I love the texture of it. I like mixing this yarn with the Chroma. It worked out great. This is the Chroma fingering. This is in Sedona. I use Vermont for the pattern. But the fun thing is I just wanted to point out these yarns is you can really do a lot of different color options for this one. There's a ton of Chroma options. And then I like these base colors. You can, just to note, use the Chroma natural color if you like instead of the twill. But for the pattern I did use the twill. I also used a frills crochet H hook. This is the streamline, and then a tapestry needle, a stitch marker, and some scissors. Now let's jump right in. To get started using our H hook, we are going to go ahead and create a slip knot and then place that onto our hook. And now we are going to chain 90, which really is a lot of chains. So I want to show you a little trick. Once I have a few chains started, I am going to remove my hook, insert my hook into that very first chain, then put my hook back into the chain I'm working on, and then I'm going to keep chaining. What this will do is it will keep our chain from twisting. So I just ignore this first chain sitting on my hook. I just keep chaining like normal. And then once I get to 90, it's going to be really simple to join this by simply pulling through the first chain holder right here on my hook. So it's a way to just chain 90 without having some twists in your chain. So go ahead and chain 90 and come on back. Now that I have chained 90 in this Horchata heather, I am going to go ahead and slip stitch to join. And now I'm going to kind of turn my work ever so slightly because I like to work in these back humps. They are my favorite way to start to single crochet into the next row. That very first stitch might be a bit tough to get into. I may have done my slip knot a bit tight, but once I get through this one, yeah, I'm going to struggle a little bit. Now I'm just going to keep on going with single crochets. However, this round will simply be single crochet 90 in the back hump, or however you like to do it. But grab a stitch marker because it is really easy working with small yarn like this to lose track of the very first stitch of the round. And we're also going to grab a stitch marker for two reasons. Notice I didn't chain. We are not going to be joining and chaining. This will be worked continuous. So go ahead and work around 90 stitches. And when you're doing so, we're going to be a little bit conscious of how we're single crocheting. What I mean by that is the very next row, we're going to start to work in split single crochets or the waistcoat stitch. When we're doing that, this is called basically the magic loop on here. We are going to go ahead and pull that up a little bit before we yarn over and pull through. What that does is it gives us more space in this V on the front of the stitch for us to work into for the next round when we will start to work in that split single crochet. So we want to make sure that we're pulling up a bit, pausing ever so slightly before yarning over and pulling through. If we don't, it will be very tight, very difficult, very frustrating to work in this stitch pattern with this color work. So just be sure, oh, that chain's a little tight, but that's okay. I can kind of work into that. As long as I make sure, I'm going to split my yarn there. As long as I make sure that I am pulling up, that's the most important part, pulling up right there. And then once we work around with 90, then we will talk about what happens when we start doing that split single crochet. Now that we've done round one, it is time for round two, where we are going to be bringing in our second color, which I always get super excited about. So for round two, we will be starting our color work already. And if you prefer to work from charts, I'm a personal lover of charts. There is a chart in the pattern. So what I will do is I'll remove my stitch marker for a second because my first stitch will still be in this Horchata in color A. And I am going to do this first stitch into the split single crochet style. So that means this is my first stitch, but I'm not going to enter here where I normally would. I'm going to move over to this V. There's a V on the front of all these stitches, and I'm going to insert my hook into that V. And notice when I do so, you want to make sure that on the back, there's also kind of an upside down V. You want to make sure you're inserting on the front, in the front of the V, and then on the back in that upside down V. And when you yarn over and you pull up that first loop, make sure you pull up just a little bit more than you normally would to make space for this type of stitching. Now, instead of yarning over in this color, to complete this first stitch, I'm actually going to yarn over into the next stitch color. So whenever you're changing colors, you're actually going to be yarning over and finishing off the previous stitch before working the next stitch of the next color. I'm going to go ahead and mark that first stitch of the round, which is very important to do for this pattern. And now I can keep going. So for this round, we are going to be switching colors every other stitch. So we're just going to do some fun detailing here. So I'm going to do my next stitch in the color B. And before I yarn over, I'm already switching. So this is really going to get you to practice your color work right off the bat by switching every single stitch back and forth. And if you have it too loose, you can kind of pull down a little bit as you go. And then I will do my next stitch, change colors, and the next stitch. Now what I will say is these first few rows, for me at least, they always feel the hardest. And when I say the hardest, is simply because we don't really have a lot of established stitches to hold. It feels a little bit fickly, but keep on going, take your time. These first rows always take me more time than the other rows do once I get kind of warmed up to this. And that's just the way it is. No matter how much color work I do, these first few rounds will always take me a little bit longer before I really get going on my piece and gaining a little bit of speed. As you can see, we're just doing every other stitch, different color, and changing back and forth. Now, as we work our way through round 2, I want you to take note that I am not crocheting over the other color that I've dropped. I'm actually just simply carrying it on the back. The reason why is because on certain pieces and certain colorwork pieces that I really would like a nice drape, I simply just carry the colorwork along the back. This is similar to what they do in knitting. Fair Isle is just carried, it's just going to hang out, and I do find that it gives a better, softer drape to the fabric. So for this pattern, we will also be carrying our yarn on the back. We won't be crocheting over it at all. And then I will also show you what to do once we get to the color work if you have long stretches of color and we don't want to do too big of a carry or float. This is also called floating. So simply work round 2, changing colors every other stitch, and then for round 3 and round 4, it's simply still working in that split single crochet, only doing this horchata color. So do round 3 and row 4, the same stitch. The entire color work from here on out will be done in the split single crochet or waistcoat stitch. And so after you've done rounds 3 and round 4, come on back for round 5. So here we are at round 5. Now in the pattern, I have each round written out, or I also have a chart you can follow. So really quick, I just want us to take a look at that chart. So as you notice that there are 2 colors on this chart, one is white and one is black. The darker black color indicates color B and the lighter color indicates color A. So that's the horchata. And on round 5, you'll just see lots of squares going across. This chart is read from right to left, and each chart will be done 3 times in a round. So you'll go right to left on row 5 3 times in a round. So to do round 5, you would start the round by doing 3, and let me see if I can get my mouse out here. You guys should be able to. And then we can kind of follow along just so that it's easier for us to understand this a bit. So if we start here, we're going to do 1, 2, 3 in our color B, and then 3 in our color A, 2 in our color B, 3 in our color A, 3 in our color B, and so forth all the way across. And then we would do that 2 more times from right to left. And that's how we read these color charts. If you prefer, like I said, we can always use the written instructions. It's completely up to you. So now to show you how to do this, I'm going to be going back 1 step. So this is the last stitch of the previous round of round 4. But I want to go back because the very first stitch in round 5 is color B. So I want to yarn over with my new color before I start that round. Now I'm going to move my stitch marker. And I'm going to do just like we said, we're going to do the first 3 stitches in color B. I'm going to go ahead and mark that first stitch. And now we're going to switch to the color A for 3 stitches. And when I switch colors, when I'm carrying along the back, so when we're floating our yarn along the back, you do not want to pull this tight. It could cause some puckering. You just want it to lay nice and smooth without causing tons of tension. You don't want it too loose to the point where it would catch on a lot of things. And now I'm going to do 3 in the color A. And here we switch back to color B for 2. Now, if I were carrying for a lot of stitches, like in here at some point we might carry for 5 stitches, whenever that would happen, we would catch our yarn. So I'm going to show you how to do that on this next section. So then my next is to do 3 in the horchata. So I would go ahead and do my split single crochet in the first. And then in the next one, if I wanted to catch my yarn on the back, so let's say we were going to be working for a lot of stitches, we don't want to carry along the back for, I'd say I wouldn't carry more than 3 stitches across. So let's pretend we were doing more. I would take my color B and I would lay it over my hook, just like so. Just lay it over the top of your hook and then complete the next stitch. And then you can keep going, and notice on the back, it catches it. It traps it there. It makes it lay really nice, and we don't have any really long floats. So if you're doing more than 3 stitches in one color before switching, I would definitely consider catching that yarn on the back. So I'm going to show you again. If I wanted to catch this color A, since now I'm working with color B, I simply lay it over my hook and then complete my stitch. And that catches it right there. It just traps it. And that is all you really need to know to keep going with this color work. So you're going to continue to follow that chart or follow the written instructions, going round and round, never joining, just working continuously. And I want you to go ahead and work this up through all rounds. Work it up through, I believe we have 49 rounds, I want to say on this. 47. So there's 47 rounds to this nice cowl. So after we work the 47 rounds, then come on back and we'll talk about the edging. But this is just working each round over and over again, doing the same thing. It's the same stitches, just switching colors every so often and having a lot of fun with it. Honestly, remember, color work takes more time usually than doing other types of crochet projects. So enjoy it. Don't rush it. Make sure your tension stays as consistent as possible. And come on back when you've created a beautiful color work cowl and we'll do the edging. To do the ribbed edging along each side of this cowl, we are going to be doing a single crochet in the back loop only for lots and lots of rows until we get all the way around. So I'm going to show you how to do this. For our very first row, we are going to chain 5. And in the second stitch from the chain, we are going to do a single crochet. and then we're going to single crochet in each remaining stitch. Our stitch count from here on out is 4 stitches for every single row, but we will be working 2 slip stitches along the edges, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So now that I've got my 4 single crochets, I'll pull in my tail end here, I am going to be working into the back loops only of the edge stitches. So I'm going to slip stitch 2 stitches, and I kind of keep them a little bit tighter, along the edge of the body. And then I'm going to turn my work, and now I'm going to skip those 2 slip stitches from the body, and working in the back loops only, we are going to single crochet 4. And now we're going to turn our work. And I will tell you, that from here on out, I do not do the chain 1 as the edge stitch because it's not needed. It just adds extra bulk. You can work without it. So starting in the back loop only, I'm going to single crochet 4. And then once again, we will be slip stitching 2 stitches from the body edge, working in the back loop only of that body edge. And then turning and skipping those 2 slip stitches from the body edge and single crocheting 4. So we're going to keep repeating those steps all the way around until we get back to the beginning, and then come on back and I will show you how to join your starting edge with your finishing edge. So when you've made it all the way back around with this ribbing, all the way along those edges, it is time for us to join. Now to do so, we are going to enter the back loop only of our current row, and then we're going to enter the loop on our starting row, so from our starting chain. Then we will yarn over and slip stitch. We don't need to do a single crochet here because it will create a bump that we don't want. So we're simply slip stitching through the back loop and that first side, that first loop from the chain, together at the same time. So you're slip stitching through both your current edge and your starting edge. And then you can go ahead and fasten off your yarn and weave in your end, and then you are ready to wear this beautiful cowl. I really love this color work. It's so much fun to use this stitch. It has a nice knit look to it, and I hope you enjoyed as well. I would block it out and then take it out and wear it wherever you go. You will notice there is a slight slant to this. Blocking can help with that. If you have any pins or anything, you can simply kind of shift, pull it into place, and wet block it, and that will help that lean quite a bit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I cannot wait to start our next project together. Please hit that subscribe button and be sure to tag #BriannaK Designs on social media so I can see what you make as well. I will see you next time.